Let's talk about my new favorite smart home vac, the Roborock S7 MaxV Ultra, that can vacuum, mop, and clean up after itself. Welcome everybody to AppleInsider. It is Andrew here, and you can find me on Twitter at Andrew_OSU. If you haven't done so already, please go ahead and subscribe and smash that notification icon so you don't miss a single video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about my favorite Siri-controlled smart home vac, the Roborock S7 MaxV Ultra. And there are multiple versions of this vacuum that I'm going to touch on. And as a reminder, there are chapter markers down below, so skip ahead to the section that you care about most. Let's go ahead and dive into this thing, talking specifically about which model I have been testing out. Now, the Roborock S7 MaxV Ultra comes in a few different flavors. So the Roborock, this here, the actual vacuum, that is the S7 Max V. That's the actual vacuum itself. And what determines whether or not it is the plain old S7 Max V, the S7 Max V Plus, or the S7 Max V Ultra is the docking station that it comes with. So you can get this vacuum by itself with a standard recharging vacuum station, or you can get the S7 Max V Plus that comes with a two-part docking station. The docking station will hold water as well as a dustbin. So you'll go up to it, it'll automatically empty out its dustbin, and it can get water for mopping. Then the Max V Ultra, the highest end one, the one I'm talking about in this video, it has the empty wash fill station, which will empty the dustbin on your vacuum. It will then fill it up or empty it out of old mopping water, then refill it with clean mopping water, and there is an additional brush on the bottom that will go and clean the mop in between uses. So it is always clean as it mops your house. So you can pick up any three of those, and everything that I talk about with the vacuum itself will pertain to all three models, and then I'll specifically talk about that empty wash fill station and how that works. So let's go ahead and dive into all this in a bit more detail. Let's kick things off with some high-level specs of the Roborock S7 Max V Smart Vacuum. Now, this comes in with 5,100 Pascal of suction. At least Roborock claims. There's no way for me to test the actual suction on this thing, but it is rated for higher suction than the model that sits below it in the Roborock lineup. The point is that this has the highest amount of suction of Roborock's autonomous vacuum lineup. On top of that, it has Reactive AI 2.0. So this is actually using a LiDAR scanner as well as an RGB scanner and all fun stuff like that to look around your home as it is cleaning. Now this new Reactive AI is, I believe, 22% faster, or 22% more accurate and 70% faster than the previous version of Reactive AI. It does a bunch of cool stuff, and we will get into it in a few. This vacuum does more than just vacuum up your floors. It can mop them as well. It has a detachable mop head that goes onto the vacuum. It knows whether it is there or not and presents you with the option to mop or not mop when it is attached. When it is attached, it'll go ahead and mop your floors using a sonic vibration motor. So it'll actually vibrate that mop head at over 3,000 vibrations per minute to scrub your floors. And there are multiple levels of intensity, so you can scrub harder or less hard depending on the floor that it is cleaning or how dirty your house is. Now, all said and done on quiet mode, this vacuum can run for 180 minutes throughout your home. It does charge even faster than previous generations as well, so if it doesn't make it through your whole home in 180 minutes, it can get back to its dock, charge up, and get out there and continue cleaning. Before getting to the smart features and like the HomeKit support, all of that kind of stuff that I'm dying to talk about, we have to talk about the core functionality here. So I want to talk about how well does it vacuum, how well does it mop, and does it get stuck or fling dog poop around the house? These are important things to know because all the fun features in the world don't matter if it can't perform basic functions with some level of accuracy. So first off, how well does it vacuum? I think the vacuum is the best part about this. It does an excellent job cleaning up our floors. I've tested this with small sediment like flour to larger debris like dirt, as well as chunks of like, hair and stuff. We have a lot of animals in our house. I'm talking 3 bunnies, 2 dogs, 2 cats. So we have a lot of hairballs that just float down the hallways, and frequent vacuuming is a must. And this does a great job at cleaning most of it up. That said, a smart vacuum is still never going to be perfect. There are still places that it cannot reach, sharp corners that are, tight that it can't get in there. It still has the spinning brush along the edge that can kind of trap that debris, but it still misses some of those areas, or if there's smaller things in those corners that it can't get. But things like dust bunnies, it does grab and pull under. In our home, it does not fit underneath the couches, so it can only go up to the edge of the couch and kind of reach under there, but it cannot get nearly as much under the couches as we would like. Dust bunnies still like to collect under there, and that's one area that we still have to manually clean time to time. I also still move stuff when I plan to run a deep clean around the home. So there are times when you just want it to run kind of frequently, just a light cleaning around your home, picking up normal dust and debris. Then there are times you want to maybe go a little bit more. So you want to turn up the suction and do a deeper clean of your house. And in those cases, I still try to pick stuff up. Like we have bar stools, it can't fit under bar stools, so I'll pick them up and invert them on the counter. We have like a beanbag chair that's sometimes in our living room. We'll pick that up and put it on the couch so we can get more around those areas because it can't get into the fuzz of a beanbag chair. So there's things like that that we still have to move if we're doing a deep clean. But for casual cleaning frequently, this does a very good job. That's at least been my experience with the hardwood floors, vinyl floors, stuff like that. When you get to carpeted floors or rugs, it's a little bit of a different story. I don't think this is the best for carpet. It does an adequate job, but when I would run this in a room, I would still get our upright Dyson and go over it again, and yeah, I'm still pulling up dust and hair out of the carpet. It just does not have as much suction or as much like scrubbing power as a larger vacuum does. So for deep cleaning, there are still times when you might want or need a stronger, larger, heavier, more powerful vacuum, specifically relating to carpeted rooms. But fortunately, I don't have a ton of those in our home, so it's not too big of a deal. So what about mopping? Mopping is also pretty darn good. I think if you have a very dirty floor, the mopping may not cut it. You're going to need to do more frequent changes of the water and cleaning of the mop, which is something that you can control. By default, it's set for like 20 minutes. It'll mop your home for 20 minutes, then it'll go ahead, refill the water, and clean the mop head. But if you have a really dirty floor, like your kids just tracked in a bunch of mud from outside and you're expecting this to do it, you might want to increase that frequency, otherwise you're going to be spreading dirt and mud around your home, and you don't want that. So for light cleaning, I think this is perfect. It does a great job, and it sure heck mops a lot more than I ever do around this place. So it's more mopping than usually gets done, which is only a good thing. And you can see the mop water after that's collected in the empty wash fill bin. And yeah, it's some pretty dirty, grungy looking water. So I think it does a very good job mopping for typical use cases, but even on heavy stuff, you have to increase the frequency in which that mop is cleaned. With carpets, it does a good job of detecting them and lifting up that mop head. If you have a high pile carpet though, it still might get a little wet and be dragging that mop head across. There's only so much clearance on the bottom of that vacuum, so it will raise it up, but if it's something that's just really thick carpet and the vacuum sinks down a little bit, you're still going to drag that across. So just be aware of what is in your home and where you expect this thing to clean before you set your expectations. So has it ever gotten stuck in my home? Well, fortunately, no, with an asterisk in the corner. When I let this just run on its own, which is what I wanted to do at the beginning, just see how it performed, I would let this run everywhere in the home, and it did a really good job. There were times where I was nervous for it. There's like these transition strips in our home that are on little different levels, and I was worried how I was going to be able to handle this. It figures it out. Like it tries and it attacks from different angles until it can maneuver up and continue on its way. So it is able to traverse our home with great ease. But there is one time where I ran into issues, which is with our bathroom curtain. So our curtain falls down and there are little danglies, tassels along the bottom. The vacuum certainly found those, But this thing is so smart that it was able to find them, and then it was able to reverse itself and call for help. So instead of like continuing to get tangled in them and pull them in and suck them into the blades and just get everything all messed up and like pull our shower curtain down or something, no, as soon as it detected that it had started to catch something, it immediately stopped, went into reverse to release those tassels, but then did not know where to safely move to avoid them. So that's when it stopped and alerted me that it had an issue and needed to be fixed or adjusted before it could continue cleaning. I think that is brilliant and so smart. I had vacuums that really get tangled and stuff, and it does a much better job. Some carpets that are very light and kind of move around, those will also be a problem for you. In our house, I do use a few ruggables, and it works great on those because those stay put very easily. So it's able to climb on top of the carpets, vacuum on top of the carpets using a little bit more suction before going back to the floor and mopping the floors. So just depending on what you've got around, if they're tassely, lightweight carpets, you're going to need to move those types of runners and area rugs before you use this thing. I also tried making a fake pile of pet waste using just some clay, and it did a really good job. Reactive AI is able to determine what it is looking at. So it can actually tell you on the map if you're looking at a shoe, or you're looking at a surge protector, or if you're looking at pet waste. And depending on what the object is, will determine how close it gets to the object. So with things like a surge protector or shoes, it can get pretty close. It gets really close to those objects. Or around chairs and everything like that, it gets close. It understands what they are. But things like pet waste, it doesn't want to get anywhere near that. It doesn't want to fling anything around your house or get itself dirty. So it keeps a wide berth from anything that it thinks may be pet waste. I tried this and it worked surprisingly well. So you can feel rest assured that for the most part, it's going to avoid any pet waste that may be in your home. So let's talk about what makes this the ultra version of the Roborock S7 MaxV, and that is that empty wash fill basin. So this is a smart docking station that is honestly fairly large, and it doesn't look great to me. It looks a little utilitarian and doesn't look as sleek as I would have hoped, but it's functional and works well. There are 3 bins along the top, one for dirty, gross water, one for clean, refreshing water before it goes out to mop that you add with your soap and cleaning agent, and then on the right hand side you have the dustbin. So there is a bag and a filter in there. When you go ahead and dock your robot, it will suction everything out, which is amazing. So it'll completely empty the internal bin and put it into that bag on the top, which you have to slide out. As you slide the bag out, it actually closes itself so you don't expel dust or hair into your room. Such a smart feature. They've done this incredibly well. For the water bins, the dirty one will start to smell if you don't clean it with some regularity. So don't put it in there, leave it, and not worry about it. You really should worry about it. If you're having this mop at all, just dump that out when you can. I try to do it like every day if I'm having it mop every day, but I don't mop as often. So just remember that. It's dirty water in a standing bin. It will start to smell if you leave it too long. But otherwise, this thing is incredibly cool. So as you go ahead and dock, or as it goes out for the first time, the robot will come out, turn around, and insert the mop into the empty wash fill station. It'll go ahead and then saturate that mop with water so it's ready to go. It'll top off the robot if it needs additional water inside. And then there's a brush that will come out and scrub underneath of the mop head so that the mop head is clean before it goes out to mop. And it does this with some frequency as it is mopping so it isn't spreading that around, as I kind of already mentioned. If you are looking for just the most independent vacuum, you definitely need to get the ultra version of this. This is what I think makes it so cool. It's available on its own as well as with the vacuum itself, but I think that empty wash fill station is incredibly clutch. It is so cool. It works amazingly well. I just can't say enough cool things about it. It may be unnecessary and you're kind of just adding more autonomy to the vacuum versus doing it yourself, but it works great. Finally, my favorite part of this video that I hope you stuck around for, which is the smart features, the Siri and HomeKit integrations, and some of the other cool stuff you can do within the app. So here I am inside of the Roborock app. and I have my Roborock S7 MaxV. I can immediately run my routines, which could be things like a full clean, just to clean the whole house, or you can create one things like after meals that could just clean up your dining room area. In this case, I'm just going to jump into the vacuum for more details. So here is just a limited view of our home, and I was able to break it up into rooms, things like the kitchen, the living room, dining room, stuff like that. You can see when the Roborock encounters something that it knows what it is, such as identifiers like, in this case, we're looking at a shoe. Others, it doesn't quite know. Over here, this is where our exercise bike is. You can see the four corners of the bike, and we have a surge protector there against the wall. Your map view can be displayed in multiple different ways, so we can change our layers here. I can look by floor type, obstacles, stuff like that. I can switch to a 3D view of the home. You can go ahead and jump in that way. Looks pretty similar, but we're just looking at a 3D view of it instead. It can identify things like tables and chairs, and that can be marked on the map. Or we can do what they call the matrix view, which is basically the 3D scan. And it looks really cool. It's a little hard to tell what you're looking at times, but yeah, it's a wireframe mesh of everything that it was able to scan and detect in the home. It's a really neat thing, and it's kind of like Apple's AR view when you're using the LiDAR scanner on your phone. Same technology, just built in to the robot. You can see my metrics here at the top: cleaning area, battery level, cleaning time. On the lower right-hand corner, I can change my mode, so my suction power, quiet for night, but I can also increase it up. Scrub intensity, mild, medium, or high. So depending on how dirty things are, it can adjust. Now, this also can detect rooms based on what's in them. So if it sees a dining room table or a sofa, it can know it's in a dining room or a living room, and can adjust these things automatically based on the rooms that it identifies that it's in. When sending your robot out to vacuum, you can do it by individual rooms or by zones when you group things together. It's really impressive that it can do this without needing any other boundaries to let it know. And if we dive into the settings a little bit, located in this top right-hand corner, you can go to pin and go. You can actually drop a pin anywhere on the map and the vacuum will go right there. This is great for things like if you're in the dining room and there's a mess on the floor. Just tap a spot and the vacuum will go there and clean right away. It's pretty darn cool how you can just send it out and check individual areas versus having to clean a whole room. There's also a remote viewing option for the camera. So if you are outside of your home, you can actually tap in and see this as it is vacuuming around, or completely control it. You can use it like a little robot assistant to drive around your home and look at things. So if you have an alarm going off or you're worried about the dog, you can drive this around using a joystick or a D-pad and look around your home. A very cool feature. But there's also a lot of security and privacy things going on here. And to enable this feature, you have to do it on the robot itself. So if you do not want this feature, it is off by default. You have to turn it on the robot. It cannot be activated purely through the app. So that way no one can like hack in and change these things. It has to be done through the vacuum itself, which I very much appreciate. Now let's go ahead and talk about Siri and HomeKit. My favorite. Now let's talk about Siri and HomeKit. HomeKit technically does not have a robotic vacuum category, so this will not show up natively in the Home app like every other HomeKit accessory. But fortunately, it does have support for Siri shortcuts. Now, you do have to add these manually, which is the downside. So you have to independently choose each of these that you want to add and create a different name with them and add them to Siri shortcuts. But once you do, they can be tied with all of your HomeKit accessories. For example, I have it set up so that when I leave the house, certain things happen. So a door can lock, shades can close 50%, turn the lights off, adjust the AC, and finally start cleaning the house. All of these can happen at the same time using HomeKit tied in to Siri shortcuts. It works very well, and it's a good workaround since there is no native support for HomeKit. And I also control this regularly through Siri and my HomePod Mini. I just tell my HomePod Mini to clean the living room, clean the dining room, clean the house, return to dock, pause, resume, things like that. You can all set up. But again, you just have to do it manually. I have to choose each of those commands, choose the phrase I want to use, and enroll them all one by one. So it's more tedious, but it works very well. And I'm honestly impressed with how good it does work with my HomeKit accessories without actual HomeKit support. So that is it. That is the Roborock S7 MaxV Ultra version. This is the most capable vacuum I have ever tried. It has a ridiculous amount of suction. It can mop your house as well. It can clean up after itself, including cleaning its own mop, adjusting the water, taking out the trash, all of that. Plus, it has support for Siri and, in a way, HomeKit, which I think is incredibly useful for Apple users. Let me know what you guys all think. If you'd like to grab one, we've got links for them down below in the description. Let me know your thoughts on Twitter at Andrew_OSU or down below in the comments. And stay tuned, I got a whole lot more videos heading your way.